The breaking news. The GOP has offered up a new jobs plan. It's called Do Nothing. Yes, literally do nothing. In a letter to the Federal Reserve, GOP leaders have urged Chairman Ben Bernanke to, quote, resist further intervention in the U.S. economy. Why? Because this intervention includes the dreaded S word, stimulus. And the Republican leaders, quote, have seen no evidence that further monetary stimulus will create jobs. Well, that makes no sense, actually. But neither does Eric Cantor's latest argument. He says failed bridges are proof we shouldn't adopt another stimulus.
Every time he goes to identify a bridge or another project that is yet not funded and is in disrepair, he's going to remind people that it's his stimulus that was unable to deliver.
Am I missing something? Here's proof once again for you guys. In the third quarter of 2008, the economy was shrinking by 3.7%. In the fourth quarter of 2008, it shrunk by nearly 9%. Into the stimulus, it grew the economy by nearly 2%, and it added 2.9 million jobs. Stimulus equals jobs. By railing against the stimulus, Republicans are knowingly destroying job creation, and they're doing it so that their party can run on it. Well, lack of job creation is...
With the help and the courage of the American people, we will get our country working again. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Joining me now is Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat from Ohio. Senator, thanks for taking the time to be with us
this evening. Good to be back, Al. Thank you. Of course.
Senator, the president is traveling to your home state tomorrow. What do you hope to hear from him?
Well, I hope to hear that he's going to keep fighting, that he's going to say, he's going to make the real contrast to, do we continue to protect tax cuts? Do we continue to protect the tax breaks for Wall Street hedge fund managers? Do we continue to protect oil country subsidies and tax breaks to outsource jobs? Or do we put people back to work by building bridges and highways and water and sewer systems and community colleges and broadband and all the things that directly create jobs and then set the stage for much more job creation in the future?
The American people seem to be with him and with those like you that have stood and said we need to create jobs and we need to spend the money on the American people going back to work. Look at this latest poll by Gallup. 75% support funds to hire civil servants. 72% infrastructure. 56% extending unemployment. We hear all this talk from the Republicans about they're speaking for the American people. The American people clearly are saying the opposite of what they are writing to the Fed chair.
Yeah, we just had an amendment on the floor that I led the opposition to, sponsored by Republican senator from Arizona, that would have cut a program that helps local manufacturing business, small amount of money, $16 million, but helps local manufacturing businesses in places like Bolivar and Tuscarawas County in Ohio and Worcester and places like that, companies that have been hurt because of China trade agreements and other kinds of job-killing trade agreements. So we were able to stop them from cutting this program, but their interest is all about budget cuts and not at all about job creation. And what the president's doing, the reason he has public support, is the president's major focus is job creation. You don't only cut your way into prosperity. Certainly, we've got to deal with the budget deficit, but the focus has to be on job creation, and that's how we reduce the deficit. That's how we put people to work. That's how we rebuild this country.
And there's one other thing, Senator, that they do, and that's protect the super wealthy. And I think that is what is so obscene about this. On top of everything else, they are saying don't touch the rich, don't tax the rich. When I look at the fact that at Forbes 400, the average net worth is $3.8 billion. I mean, this is unbelievable. We're protecting billionaires while we're threatening to cut the safety net of people that have worked hard all of their life to earn enough money just to put food on the table for their families?
Yeah, I was on a conference call with a lot of seniors in Ohio, senior citizens in sort of eastern Ohio, Steubenville, Wintersville, Marietta, St. Clairsville, that area. And repeatedly, people said, wait, that the Republicans want to continue these tax breaks and then have to cut Medicare and Social Security. I mean, these are choices. These aren't academic exercises. If we're going to continue to give tax breaks to the wealthiest people in this country, then we're not going to be able to fund Medicare and not be able to fix the Brent Spence Bridge in Cincinnati and not be able to run those small, effective programs that help communities and businesses fight back against unfair trade policies.
Yeah, and let me get this right. Now, they want to call Social Security a Ponzi scheme and a lie. They want to say that we should not have the kind of entitlements like Medicare and Medicaid. They want to fight collective bargaining state by state to break down unions. They want to turn around and say that we don't need programs to create jobs or training for jobs. But if we say, well, wait a minute, at least make the rich pay the taxes they used to pay, oh, that's class warfare. They've been clobbering us over the head, but if we have the unmitigated gall to speak up, we're the ones that starting class warfare?
Yeah, when they say class warfare, what we do is point out the class warfare they've waged against the middle class, because it's the Republicans representing the Koch brothers and some of the biggest special interests, wealthiest special interests in this country that have day after day, week after week, year after year in this city gone after the middle class and waged class warfare against the middle class and against working families that aspire to join the middle class. And we've seen, as you say, we've seen the wealthier get richer, and we've seen the broad middle class begin to shrink, where it's harder and harder for working family to get into the middle class and harder for middle class people to stay in the middle class, as you know.
Now, Senator, one thing that I keep trying to address on this show that I definitely want you to address, I keep hearing people, I was at a forum in Michigan last night, saying that you've got to cut taxes to provide jobs. Look at this graph. Bill Clinton raised taxes, and Bill Clinton was able to produce 23.1 million jobs, and he taxed the rich. George Bush gave the rich tax cuts. In his 8 years, we only got 3 million jobs. That is simple mathematics. How do you have a difference of 20.1 million jobs and people can't figure out that taxing the rich is not equal to not producing jobs?
Yeah, that says it all. That 23 million jobs in a balanced budget, you didn't even add that, and wages went up during the Clinton years. The average income went up slightly. During the Bush years, 2 big tax cuts, a giveaway to the drug and insurance companies, not to mention 2 wars that weren't paid for, biggest budget deficit ever up until that time in American history, and no real job growth to take care of increased population. So clearly, just look at a little bit of history. You only have to go back 20 years and make that comparison, and you see that this trickle-down economics doesn't work in our country. It simply doesn't work. We need a fair tax system. We need to invest the way the president wants to in infrastructure and community colleges and all that. You're dead right.
Well, Senator Sherrod Brown, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Al.
You keep fighting. If we fight from the suites to the streets, we can make America work.
Thanks.
Now, let's bring in Richard Wolff, MSNBC political analyst. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
Richard, as we continue to hear this language from the right wing, I mean, can you believe they wrote the Fed chair and say don't do anything, do nothing about stimulus? I mean, are they reading the unemployment statistics? Are they looking at the level of poverty in this country that the U.S. Census Bureau just released?
Well, a little bit of context here, okay? You know, obviously it's a free country. They can say what they like. They can write letters to whoever they like. But the Fed is an independent agency. And this kind of pressure, political pressure on the Fed, has been off the charts. It's not been acceptable among serious politicians. You might have got a fringe candidate here or there, maybe a Rick Perry. You know, Steve Forbes in 2000 used to say that Alan Greenspan wasn't goosing up the economy enough in the middle of the internet bubble. Generally, politicians have steered clear of it. They've allowed the Fed to make policy decisions on monetary policy because elected politicians are no good at this stuff. They get it wrong all the time. They try to manipulate things for the politics. The Fed has a remit to cut down inflation, to cut down unemployment. If these elected leaders, these leaders of the Republican Party, think this is normal or acceptable, then the Republican Party isn't what it used to be, and it's way out of the mainstream of its own history and public opinion.
Well, I agree with you. In fact, let me show you what Vice President Biden said about the Republican Party that really says exactly what your point was that you just made. He says, you know what our biggest problem is. There's no Republican Party. The tail is wagging the dog, and they can't control their party. That's the problem. That's not going. The only thing that's going to change their minds is their constituency tells them that they have to move, and that's what Biden said.
Yeah, Reverend Sharpton, I'm wondering what their constituency actually is when they write this kind of letter, because the stimulus that we're talking about here from the Federal Reserve is actually to lower interest rates so that banks can lend to businesses. That is their constituency, right? Those are the job creators they say they're talking about. And also, hopefully, to lower rates on mortgages so that people can refinance. It's not about investing in bridges or any of the things they think are democratic ideas associated with this president. If you believe your constituency is the private sector, it's businesses, big and small, then this kind of measure to lower the cost of borrowing is a good thing. Why they want to take the Rick Perry route and undermine this when it has no impact on the deficit and can only help the economy, it's totally what other central banks are doing around the world. I don't understand who they think they're representing, because they're not even running for the Republican nomination for the presidency.
And then this rhetoric of class warfare. Let me show you a sound from Elizabeth Warren about this whole notion of class warfare in the Republicans.
Well, this is class warfare, this is whatever. No, there is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody. You built a factory out there, good for you, but I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on the roads the rest of us paid for. Yep. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for.
Amen, amen. She's preaching the truth. I mean, because this whole notion, like they are so smart and did all of this on their own, and that they were not in many ways aided by the things that this society provided from them that working class people's tax dollars paid for. It is the most arrogant and false premise to this whole argument.
Well, they're actually not arguing against public spending on infrastructure projects or the stimulus, because if you look at what Mitch McConnell does in Kentucky, you go down there and talk to people about what he's done. They don't say, well, it's the way he opposed President Obama that people know him for. They say, look at all the dollars he's brought here, all the federal tax dollars, this convention center, that road. He has been a master at getting the federal dollars back into his home state. And the same is true of many of these governors running for president now. They don't mind the dollars if it's coming to their state, their voters, their projects. What they mind is someone else getting the public money. And it's just hypocrisy, never mind whether or not they actually believe this stuff.